What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and over the past few days, I have been showing you a number of rounds from the Vault Tour we had in Eindhoven over at the weekend, the very first Vault Tour ever. Well, the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, or bad news, depending how you look at it, we've got to the final. So settle down, ladies and gentlemen, grab yourselves a nice cold beverage, and enjoy the first ever Vault Tour final. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. We have reached the final of the Vault Tour in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. It took a while, but we got there, ladies and gentlemen. On the left, we have Renee, who we just saw in the previous round and did see on one of the games yesterday. And we have got Rachel on the right, who we haven't seen so far, but she's playing that double time traveler deck I told you about. 2 time traveler, 2 help from future self, 2 wild wormhole, and an effervescent principle to stop reaping. It really is a fairly phenomenal suite of logos cards. Now, she's also playing Mars, and she's got 3 YXELO Bolter, who when you fight or reap, you deal 2 damage to a creature and you can purge them. Well, you will if you destroy them. That's pretty good. But she's also playing Key Abduction. Some people suggested that cheating keys, forging a key mid-turn, was going to be the difference between the best decks. That's not been the case this weekend. We have not seen I've not seen a mid-turn key forged at all. Maybe it will happen this time. And then, of course, she's playing Shadows with Bait and Switch, Relentless Whispers, Urchin, the usual deal. Now, we have seen Renee before, but for those of you that are new, he's got library access, he's got Mother, he's got a couple of Bat Drone, a couple of Dextra to steal. His Shadow stands out because he's got 3 Nerve Blast. Obviously, he's playing Bait and Switch. They've always got Bait and Switch. And then in terms of his Untamed is really where his deck shines. When I look at Rachel's deck, I look at it and I look at the logos and I go, this is amazing. Look, everyone knows Shadows is great, okay? We've seen a million great Shadows decks this weekend. Great Shadows decks are not standing out to me at this stage. Obviously, they're both playing Bait and Switch. But what really stands out for me with Renee's deck is the Untamed suite. 2 Full Moon. For the remainder of the turn, gain 1 Ember each time you play a creature. 3 Dust Pixies, which give you double Ember. So if you play a Dust Pixie while Full Moon is in play, you're getting 3 Ember for playing a Dust Pixie. That's like playing Virtuous Works for Sanctum, except you can then reap with it if your opponent doesn't take it down. Plus, Witch of the Eye can get a card back from your discard pile when you reap. Plus, Nepenthe Seed has an Omni ability, which lets you get any card back when you sacrifice it, which you can do on anybody's turn. Plus, he's playing a Snufflegator, and I love me some Snufflegator. Plus, Regrowth gets you a creature from your discard pile back into your hand. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I love his Untamed. To take a quick closer look at the Captain of Barracks launch, Rachel's deck, it's a double time traveler deck. Now, when Keyforge first came out, when Wave 1 launched, there were a few things that people got hyped about. The Horseman was something that people got really hyped about, one of the Sanctum things. People thought the Horsemen were going to be great. And some Horseman decks fetched silly money on eBay. We even saw a couple of double Horseman decks, because they always came as a foursome. We saw some double Horseman decks, which sold for 4 figures. It was crazy. That has not proven out, ladies and gentlemen. It has not proven out. However, Time Traveler has. We saw Time Traveler in, I believe, one of the other top 4 decks. And we've got double Time Traveler in Rachel's deck here. 2 Help from Future Self, 2 Time Traveler. Now, she's also got 2 Wild Wormhole. Gives you an Ember bonus and lets you play the top card of your deck. And she does have Bait and Switch, which she can waste. But she doesn't have any cards like Gateway to Dis, which would absolutely wreck in terms of if you accidentally played it. So, Rachel's got the great logos, Renee's got the great Untamed, they've both got Shadows, they've both got logos, it's Untamed, it's Mars, and you know by now I am a fan of Mars. I have mentioned that on many an occasion. And it looks like we've had a handshake, and we will very, very shortly be off and rolling in the final of the first ever Vault Tour. Now, I know there is a Vault Tour going on in Seattle, but they are chronologically behind us, so this one is technically first, even though they're technically on the same day. And just to be clear, it is a best of 3. I did say this in a previous round, but I know some of you are probably tuning in just for the final. If you know anyone that should be watching this, please let them know. If this isn't for some reason chucked in the Facebook group, if someone can make sure it is, that would be lovely. Just make sure that anyone who needs to see this can see it, ladies and gentlemen. Frankly, I am excited, and you should be too. So, we're starting off with a Poison Wave, dealing 3 damage to that mother. I was going to say, I thought it should be 2 damage to the mother. Then we get a Nexus down and a Noddy the Thief as well, which is pretty gosh darn nice. There we go. And then we get Relentless Whispers. We've seen that a few times this weekend. Deal 2 damage to a creature. If it destroys it, deal an Ember. Of course, what Renee did on his first turn, he got Mother down. Mother gets you an extra card every turn. Mother's pretty gosh darned good. And yeah, there's a bit of discussion going on here. Yeah, so there we go. So there's 4 damage on Mother. We got 3 Ember there because there was a bit of reaping going on as well. Rachel draws until she's got 6 cards remaining in her hand. And frankly, she's going all right. Seems like she's had a decent first turn. It's not some fantastic jumping out to the start turn, but Mother's not going to be lasting very much longer. She's got a bunch of Ember on the board, and she's got 3 Shadows creatures. Not a bad Shadows turn at all. Now, Renee's just having a little bit of a think here. I believe it is over to his turn now. And it looks like he is going to be going for Shadows. And he's playing that Imperial Traitor card again. Gives you an Ember bonus. Look at your opponent's hand. You may choose and purge a Sanctum card in it. He knows Rachel's not playing Sanctum. Rachel knows she's not playing Sanctum. We know Rachel's not playing Sanctum. But that doesn't mean he can't look at their hand, which in a way is kind of fun. So we get to Silvertooth down, and I believe that is a Nexus as well. Silvertooth enters play ready, and like pretty much everybody, just reap, get yourself an Ember. Plays too much to protect, won't actually get rid of any of Rachel's Ember, she doesn't have 7 or more, but it does give you an Ember bonus, so that's not too bad at all. So straight away, Noddy the Thief is doing a little bit of capturing for Rachel. When you... Well, it's got an action that you can steal. So you don't reap, you don't attack, you just steal an Ember. So that's quite nice. Gets down a Nexus. It's a Nexus party, ladies and gentlemen. It's also a Shadows party. We've only seen Shadows being used so far. And then just reaping. Just a bunch of reaping, and all of a sudden, Rachel ends a turn with 6 Ember on her character card. So now Renee's actually going to have to go and make sure that she stops reaping, frankly. Stops reaping. So we have just had further confirmation it is best of 3, but I was pretty good on that. So here we go with a little bit more stealing. We had Nerve Blast coming down. Of course, Renee does have 3 of them in his deck. Steal 1, do 2 damage somewhere. And then we got Silvertooth there as well, getting a bit of reaping in. Nexus. Now, when Nexus reaps, you can actually use one of your opponent's artifacts as if it were your own. Unfortunately for Renee, Rachel has no artifacts. Unfortunately for Rachel, Renee is ending the turn with 7 Ember. And then, that's Effervescent Principle. Both players losing half of their Ember. Rachel didn't want to throw away her Ember, and she does gain a chain by doing so, so it's a kind of double downside for Rachel, but she's stopping Renee actually being able to forge. That's pretty gosh darn important. Now, Twin Bolt Emission coming down there quite nicely. Deal 2 damage to a creature and 2 damage to another creature. Gets Silvertooth off the board, which is quite nice. We play a Wild Wormhole, which actually allows her to play a YXELO Bolter straight into play. So now she's got a Mars creature down, even though it wasn't a Mars turn. That's what's so good about Wild Wormhole. Also Phase Shift. Although, unfortunately, there are no Phase Shift in Rachel's deck. So, back over to Renee here. Big decision to make. He's got one Shadows creature on the board, but it looks like from his hand it's either going to be Untamed or it's going to be Logos. Probably Untamed, because he's got a bunch of Untamed cards in hand, so he can essentially roll forward with it. He's got Way of the Bear, he's got a Regrowth, he's got a Snufflegator. Yay, Snufflegator! Love him. Best design of a creature in set 1. I don't think it's necessarily the best creature. 4-power skirmish, fine. But I do think it's the best designed creature. So we're going to play, what have we got here? So Way of the Bear goes on to Snufflegator. Way of the Bear just gives you Assault 2, so you do 2 damage before you even start. So if you were to attack, say, a Silvertooth, that would actually take out the Silvertooth before the attack started. We now play a Regrowth to get an Ember bonus, and what has he actually gotten back? Could not see exactly what he got back there, unfortunately. I think it's a Logos creature. And then he draws... Oh, he gets that Dust Pixie. Bet he wish he'd have had that during his Untamed turn last time. And then Judge helpfully just popping that Snufflegator nice and straight. So, Rachel starting off there with Mars. Oh, here's a nice card that we do not see very often at all. Psychic Network. Steal 1 damage for each ready, friendly Mars creature. Then we get a Y-Exilo Bolter and a Blipip going down. And we reap with a Y-Exilo Bolter, which deals 2 damage to a creature. Can't purge yet, but will purge if we get that happening again next turn. And then we actually get a Biometrics backup coming down onto Blipip. You get an Ember bonus, and if it is destroyed, you put this creature into its owner's archives. Now, I believe Renee is actually starting with 5 Ember this turn. There will be no reaping, whereas Rachel's sitting there now with 7 Ember, putting her in a really good position to be reaping next turn, presuming that Renee doesn't end up, well, foiling her plans. So... looks like we're going to go Logos here. So Mother, it was Mother that he got back using Regrowth, which makes perfect sense. Mother's a phenomenal card. And then we see a couple other creatures coming down as well. There is a Dextra that goes and captures an Ember. And, oh, we're also seeing what can only be a Transposition Sandals. It's the only option. It's the only Logos upgrade he plays. Gives you an Ember bonus, and it's got an action. Swap this creature with another friendly creature in the battle line. You may use that other creature this turn. So you can basically swap it in the battle line while using a different creature. And yes, it doesn't say Logos creature, so you could potentially use it at the same time. So he's sitting there with enough Ember, but it looks like he's ending his turn without being able to stop Rachel forging. So Rachel's just going to go ahead and... forge a key? No. Did she forge a key then? She's not flipped a key over, but she did get rid of all of her Ember. Now she uses bait and switch to get 3 of them. And now she's deciding what to do, but I didn't see anything that would get rid of all the Ember there. And she hasn't flipped one of her keys over. Let me check on that quickly. Ah, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to say, I'm fairly sure she did. Otherwise, she just threw away all her Ember, and I couldn't see why. Oh, and then she just reaps with 3 of her Shadows creatures, gets another 3 Ember, so she's already back up. And here's the thing, right? We look at Rachel's deck, and the first thing that jumps out is, oh, double Time Traveler deck. She's not even had a Logos turn so far. She's doing all of this with Shadows and Mars. Also, right, forging a key and then playing a bait and switch to stop your opponent forging while getting 3 Ember, then just reaping with 3 creatures to put yourself up to 6. It's not some huge explosive turn, but what more do you want? You stopped your opponent forging while putting yourself in a position to forge. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, doing this stream today, I think I am breaking my record for the amount of times I have said forge in a single day. I am saying the word forge an awful lot here. So, back over to Renee. He's down by a key. He's not able to forge this turn. So down goes Dextra, captures an Ember. Down goes... don't know. Cannot quite make it out there. Now he's using transposition sandals to switch with a Schnufflegator. And then Schnufflegator's got skirmish, remember, so if it starts an attack, it's guaranteed to survive the attack. That's literally the whole point of skirmish. That's good. It's a very, very handy thing for him to do. The question is, now remember it's got Assault 2 because of Way of the Bear. So we could go after Silvertooth here and not take any damage back. Oh no, wait, he's got Skirmish. So actually we're talking kind of 6 power here. So what you really want to do is just go ahead and smash. Now, of course, one of the things we do have going on here is the fact that it's a European tournament. I mean, we've got players from all over Europe. Renee, I want to say it's either German or Dutch, his deck. And Rachel's got an English language deck. So there may well be a little bit of confusion in terms of the wording of some of the cards. So you see Rachel there just showing on her phone, hey, this is what this card actually does. Very friendly. So it looks like it's YXZero Bolter that's going to be going down. Of course, there are 2 of them on the field, so one goes down, but you've still got the option to use it again next turn. Now, he has got a couple of Dew Fairy in hand. They're not going to do anything now, but it is going to be handy on his next Untamed turn. He's going to get himself a lot of Ember. And the good news is he played Dexter to capture, but he is able to take out the other YXZero Bolter as well. So both of them are gone now. None of that purging malarkey. Now, did have to take the 3 damage there, which is not ideal, onto Dr. Escoterra. And then that's the end of his turn. And there will be no forging. So Rachel going straight into her logo's turn here. She is playing, it's Help from Future Self. Gets you an Ember while allowing you to search for a Time Traveler, which you can then play down, get yourself an Ember and draw 2 cards. So Help from Future Self essentially gives you 2 Ember, allows you to draw 2 cards, and leaves you with a creature on the field that you can use for reaping, etc. in the future. So, very, very useful. Then we see a second Time Traveler coming down, getting another Ember and another 2 cards. And of course, the theory is that you can hopefully draw into a bunch of Logos cards, so you can keep your Logos turn going. We see another creature going down there. So, I mean, if we get a Logos turn in future, that's 3 creatures ready to reap, which is really quite important. It's going to help out massively. There's just something about it. Now, what is kind of weird, outside of the 2 Time Travelers, Rachel literally has a Quixo the Adventurer and a Titan Mechanic. That's it. That's all we have. They're the only 2 things. I believe that's Quixo the Adventurer that went down on the end there. Quixo the Adventurer has got a fight ability that lets you draw a card, but it's also got skirmish, so it can fight without taking any damage in reply. So Rachel's got 10 Ember there, more than enough to be forging. So Renee really needs to get on it. Now, looks like he is able to take out that artifact there, which is nice. But he's still not... Okay. No, we're still there. So we're playing... Yeah, the lab work came down there. Gives you an Ember bonus, lets you archive a card. Which is nice. And then there's a Fogify, I believe, coming down, which stops your opponent using their creatures to fight next turn. Gives you an Ember. And now we're at the end of the turn. And we are rolling, ladies and gentlemen. I say we are rolling. Rachel's rolling. She's up 1 key to 0. And she's got 12 Ember. She's literally got enough Ember to forge 2 keys. And even something like a bait and switch, it would leave both players on 8 Ember. That would still leave Rachel with 2 more than she needed to actually go ahead and forge a key there, which is, frankly, redonk. It is going to take a lot to try and stop Rachel forging here. Now, gets a couple of creatures down, which is lovely. And there's a lot of creatures on the field on both sides here. But I don't know what his options are. So all of a sudden, Rachel's forging her second key. And the thing is, even bait and switch, if Rachel can get enough Ember down, and this is the awkward decision. Do you go full on for the Ember, hoping your opponent doesn't have a bait and switch, or that you can get enough that it doesn't matter? Or do you play a slightly longer game, trying to disrupt your opponent, having a slightly smaller pool of Ember, waiting for that turn where you're sure? But here's the thing, she's up 2 keys to nothing. And when you're up 2 keys to nothing, sometimes you do have the option to go, you know what? I'm just going for it. And maybe I'm too aggressive, right? When I play card games, I am an aggressive player. Always have been, probably always will be. But sometimes I just go, you know what? I'm just going for it. I'm just going to get as much Ember as I can. I'm pretty sure it's going to work out just fine. Now, we did see, I believe, that was a Twin Bolter mission coming down, dealing 2 damage to each of 2 creatures while gaining Rachel and Ember. So now she's up to 7. And she has gone logos. Now, she plays Effervescent Principle, but first, we've already seen it, and secondly, that would really hurt her here. Oh, and then she gets Reaping with Quickso, both the time travelers to get 3 more Ember, and that's it. Renee has conceded, and Rachel has done what I thought she might, what I suggested she could, and just gone, you know what? I'm up 2 keys to nothing. I'm just going to reap. I'm just going to get as much Ember as I can. Maybe you play a bait and switch. Maybe it backfires. But I don't think it's going to. And she pulls out a fairly quick win there. Right away, 1 game to 0. Congratulations to Rachel. And those time travelers came in handy. There's no denying that. In that first game, those time travelers came in handy. Because she was able to draw extra cards, get extra Ember. And what really happened beautifully there was where she was able to actually reap. Sorry, when she used 1 time traveler to draw a couple of cards, and then with that, drew a second time traveler to play that. Now, Crit Camp over in the chat has pointed out there are no board wipes. And that's the thing. That's one of the reasons we've seen quite a lot of Dis this weekend. And one of the things that Dis does really well with cards like Gateway to Dis, etc., wipes the board. It is great at board wiping. Or Hysteria. There's no board wipes in either of these decks. Which means, I mean, look, you've got things like Shadows do a lot of cheeky damage. So, you know, we see that Renee's got his 3 copies of Nerve Blast, and everyone's playing Relentless Whispers. You can get rid of there's 3 YX0 bolters on Rachel's side of the field. But one of the things we need to point out here, without board wipes, these creatures can go unchecked. It's SG Egg Drop something. Just search XG Egg Drop, I'm sure you'll find it. And it's a really good deck. It's a deck I like very much. I've only played, I think, 3 games of it, but I've won all 3 games with it. It's a deck I'm quite fond of. It's got Untamed, and it's got something like 21 creatures out of 32 cards. It's really creature heavy. And here's the thing. It's really cool. And I did win a game when my opponent dropped a Gateway to this. But it's awkward. When you're playing a very creature-heavy deck, it can come back to bite you. Now, Rachel's deck is not even that creature-heavy. I mean, if we look at her logos, she's got 2 Time Traveler, Titan Mechanic, Quixo the Adventurer. That's it. Now, she does have 8 creatures in Mars, and she does have 7 creatures in Shadows, but still only like 17. That's still a lot less than some decks, about 50%, just over. But what we see here is there's no board wipes. So we actually end up in a situation where even if you're not playing quite as many creatures as we might be expecting in some other decks, the fact that there's no board wipes around means that it seems like you're playing more creatures. And you would expect leads you to some faster games. Now, I'm not 100% sure what's happening here. Because they've all kind of stood up. Is there some kind of like mid-round break? Who instigated the mid-round break? It's not something I'm used to. Might just be as simple as someone running off to the little boys or girls room. We don't know. 2 minutes? 2 minutes? I think that's what they're saying. It's 2 minutes break. This is weird. I'm not used to this in other card games. I mean, certainly, right? We are definitely not. I'm not stopping the stream or any of that malarkey. There's no way we're stepping away from this. We're in the middle of the final, ladies and gentlemen. We do not step away in the middle of the final. So, Seed being neutered, the double time traveler turn. It's magical Christmas land for Rachel here. Now, Radamag does point out they have a break and time is still running. Yeah. Having said that, if both players are up for it, why not? No internet holes today. We've had some internet holes, Nerd Pill. For some reason, I do not understand. My OBS, for whatever reason, is not allowing me to capture a browser window, which means I've got to just do a straight capture of whatever's on my screen, which means when I flip back to OBS, which I have to do occasionally to do some techie stuff. I say techie stuff like I know what's happening. You know, that's when we get the internet holes. So Asmodee NL is popping their small toilet break. We're good, ladies and gentlemen. We're good. So, while we're here, chuck some questions down in the comments, or in the chat. Let's have a little bit of a chat amongst ourselves. I want to be a teacher. If I have to speak to somebody outside the room or speak to a particular student, I'll say, look, you guys have a chat amongst yourselves for a minute. Chat about the work. So, maybe we can do that here. See what I've missed. The average number of creatures in a Keyforge deck is 16 to 17. 18 isn't that high. That is absolutely true. But remember, no board wipes. That really does make it a little bit different, ladies and gentlemen. It does make a big difference. So, what have we got here? Here we go. Right. Oh, no, ladies and gentlemen, we missed it. It's gone. It's gone forever. I'm going to do a top 4 deck video soon. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do in terms of my plan. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to be covering this kind of for the next week pretty much. But then again, I don't know how we do this. Now, clearly I'll do a video on the winning deck. But also, I've still got a round from yesterday which I need to upload to the channel. And then we got 5 rounds from today which we need to upload to the channel. And then I want to cover the winning deck. So there's a big kind of, what do I do with that? How do I manage that? How do I manage the upload schedule? How do I think the tour will be with a sealed format in Birmingham? Have we had confirmation of that? Have we had confirmation that the Birmingham Vault Tour will be sealed? Ooh, yeah, we got to hit over 70 people. I suppose I should probably mention at this stage, if you want to subscribe to the channel, why not? And if anyone watching has an Amazon Prime subscription, remember you get a free Twitch Prime subscription, so if you're not chucking it at another streamer, you could chuck it my way. I've not heard, I've heard rumours of sealed in Birmingham, but no one's confirmed. I mean, PS4 Overwatch Series Air just said it, and I'm sure somebody posted it on Facebook the other day. I've not heard that. I've only heard rumours from other people. Now, in terms of sealed format, that makes things very interesting, but I don't know how sealed works. Certainly, if it is sealed format, I'd like to think you would be able to, say, get 3 or 5 decks. What I wouldn't want is as many as you can have, because someone turns up and buys 20 decks and picks the best one, gets an unfair advantage. 3 decks sealed. How did you get the confirmation there? Okay, I'm glad about that. I wouldn't want 1 deck. But then again, I mean, look, we look at Rachel and Renee's decks. If you open, and this is what I really like when we see in competitive Keyforge, you open Renee's deck, you see 2 Full Moon, 3 Dust Pixie, Shadows including Bait and Switch, Library Access, etc., and you go, this deck rocks. You open Rachel's deck and you go, whoa, Double Time Traveler. But then you got Shadows with Bait and Switch, and you've got 3 YXLO Bolter, etc. These look like good decks. So does that mean that the sealed Vault Tour might be won by someone who opens one of these decks? Maybe. But what I also think is if you're playing sealed, it rewards it. Because you know Renee and Rachel have played with these decks loads. You know that both of these players have played dozens and dozens of games with these decks against their friends, over Skype online, wherever it might be. You know they played a bunch of games, so they know what they're looking for. They know what they're trying to do. One of the things about a sealed tournament is you've got to basically make it up as you go along. You've got to try and spot those things. And look, you guys, a lot of you play Keyforge. How many times have you played a deck and on the 7th or 8th game done something you've never considered before? We all have. We've all done it. So you know what, ladies and gentlemen? That's what is going to help. That is what's going to be amazing. It also really, really rewards people who know the cards. Now, as someone who likes to stream and make videos, etc., my knowledge of the cards is pretty good, though not perfect. But I know there's a bunch of people out there that just go, look, I know the key cards that I'm looking out for, things like Bait and Switch, Too Much to Protect, Effervescent Printable, etc. And I know what my deck does and a few other decks, but there will be cards like Overlord Grecking that we don't see very often, they're less familiar with. People who are familiar with the cards get massively rewarded when we have a format where it is sealed. So it's partly piloting the deck, it's partly card knowledge, but yes, in any sealed format, there is going to be an element of luck in that some people will have an advantage when they open a deck, and some people will open 3 decks that are a bit rubbish. Then again, they might think they're rubbish and they're not. Oh, Rachel starting off with a great one here. So she starts off, she's only allowed to play 1 card, so she plays Help from Future Self, gets herself an Ember bonus for doing so, gets Time Traveler in her hand. Now she can't play it, it's turn 1, but she does have that ready for the Ember bonus, ready for drawing cards next turn. That's a nice turn 1 play. Speaking of which, we've got a whole bunch of logos. So Dexter comes down here from Renee, captures an Ember, he gets himself a Bat Drone, and that'll do. Oh, straight away the Time Traveler gets an Ember bonus, draws 2 cards. Does she get her other Help from Future Self? Probably not. Be fun if she did. So looks like we've got a Wild Wormhole coming down there. Play the top card of your deck. It's a Relentless Whispers. Gets rid of the Bat Drone. Cannot steal an Ember, unfortunately. There is no Ember left to steal. Plays another Wild Wormhole. Oh, and plays herself a Time Traveler to draw 2 more cards. What is this madness? She won game 1 fairly convincingly, and game 2 is started very well. 2 Time Traveler, 2 Wild Wormhole on turn 2. Plays Lab Work. Now she's got to archive a card to do that, but she does get an Ember bonus. She's already up to 6 Ember. So Renee's here sitting thinking, hang on a second. All of a sudden, we're just sitting there, and I've had 1 turn, I've now got 1 creature on the board, and my opponent's got, how many is that? 7 Ember? That's a lot of Ember, ladies and gentlemen. Plus, we saw Twin Bolt and Mission doing some damage there as well. Rachel doesn't have very much of a board presence at the moment. She's got the kind of board where a single bait and switch could make a huge difference. Now, so all of a sudden, Time Traveler goes down, gets an Ember. That's one of those nerve blasts that his deck plays. But he's not able to stop Rachel forging. And all of a sudden, Rachel's got a key. And she's up 1 game to 0. She's up 1 key to 0. Oh, and it's a Mars turn. I think that's Tunk, which is good. One of the easier to pronounce Mars creatures. Gets completely healed when you play down another Mars creature. And then we see a Blipip going down and a Biometrics backup being added to it. We had an errata to that, which made a huge difference. Because, yeah, Biometrics backup used to give your opponent the choice as to whether the destroyed creature went into your archives, and your opponent would say no. They don't get that choice anymore. It really hurts. I've got a couple of, I love Mars. So I've got a couple of decks with Biometrics backup in. That ruling made me so sad. But then we had the errata come down, and we're good now, ladies and gentlemen. We good. So what do we see? Ooh, it's that, it's that Light Out card. Just returns 2 enemy creatures to their owner's hand. So again, Rachel's got the key, which is lovely, but she has literally no board presence right now. So she's going Mars again. Blipip goes down straight away. I believe, is that Irradiated Ember? No, that's not Irradiated Ember. I'm going crazy. Because she doesn't play Irradiated Ember. I believe that... Was that... No. It was a Squawker, ladies and gentlemen. It was Squawker. Ready a Mars creature or stun a non-Mars creature. It's not always the easiest to see from up here, ladies and gentlemen. And like I say, I'm hundreds of miles away right now. They're doing this over in Eindhoven. I'm down in Cornwall. Now, key abduction, it's not going to work. It's not going to get a key. Gives you an Ember bonus. Now, you get to forge a key at +9 current cost, -1 for each card in your hand. So in theory, with a 15-card hand, you can forge a key for nothing. Assuming there's nothing on your opponent's side making it more expensive. All right, now, here's Renee's time to shine. Full moon comes down. Down goes Snufflegator, gets an Ember. Down goes Big Twig, gets an Ember. He's going to play a Regrowth, which gets him an Ember. And then he's going to get a creature, and it's going to be a Bat Drone. Can't play it now because he's on an Untamed turn, but he can use that in the future. And that's it. That's all right. He's got enough Ember to forge, but he's only got 6. So if Rachel can... Oh, she can steal an Ember. She literally switches it from 6 to 5, her in favour rather than Renee. So not bad. But it seems like... Seems like she's going to be able to probably get rid of that Ember. Oh, doesn't even need to get rid of the Ember here. Grabber Jammer. Now, Grabber Jammer, very fun card. I like Grabber Jammer very, very much indeed. Grabber Jammer, when you fight or reap, you capture an Ember. Remember that Blip It when you reap lets you ready a creature. And your opponent's keys cost +1. So actually, Rachel was able to capture an Ember while increasing the cost of reaping. The cost of forging. So as it stands at the moment, Rachel's in a very good position. She's forged a key. She's got 8 Ember out. And Renee now isn't forging a key next turn. I really like Rachel's deck. And like I said, the thing that jumps out with Rachel's deck is Double Time Traveler. And I know that she used that turn 1 here, and I know she used it last game. I'm not going to sit here and pretend she's not gotten a massive advantage both games with Double Time Traveler. But let's not pretend it's just a Double Time Traveler deck. Mars has been putting in the work, ladies and gentlemen. It has really been putting in the work. And a lot of people have said a lot of bad things about Mars here. Oh, okay, so we've had the full moon Ember turn. Here comes the library access drawing turn, and Renee needs a lot here. He is down 1 game to 0. He's going to go down 2 keys to 0 unless something happens. So he plays Bat Drone, draws a card. That's quite nice. He's got at least 3 creatures there. I believe there's a Dr. Escatera. What's he doing? So he's playing a Dextra, which captures an Ember, and he draws a card. And he's playing himself another creature there. Draws a card. Novo Archaeologist, I believe. And then he pops down another creature. Gets himself another Ember. And then another creature, which is literally another Ember, another card. And gets another card. But can he stop Rachel forging? As it stands at the moment, Rachel's still forging. Now, phase shift, bait and switch would be great. He doesn't have any phase shift in his deck. And he's not able to do so. So Rachel's ahead 1 game to 0. She's forging herself a second key. And Renee is not forging next turn. He's got 6 Ember, but there's a Grabber Jammer in play, so it's costing 7. So Renee can't... Renee? Rachel? Oh, bait and switch! That's mean! She's up 2 keys to 0, 1 game to 0, and she's stealing Ember. And Renee now has the opportunity to do what she did to win the last game. Just go nuts. Just grab as much Ember as she possibly can and just go, I just don't think you're going to be able to stop me. I just don't think you're going to be able to stop me doing this, so I'm just rolling with it. It might work. She's only got 4 Ember now. Now, she has got a Nexus down, and she did actually get an upgrade onto that Nexus there, which has got to be Duskrunner. It's the only one that she plays. The creature gains Reap, Steel, and Ember. Incidentally, right, identifying upgrades on a stream is incredibly difficult. You basically need to have their deck list in front of you and hope they're only playing one upgrade from each house. Because we had a game on stream earlier where there was a Sanctum deck that had 2 different upgrades. And yeah, if you didn't spot it when it was being attached, you had no hope. No hope whatsoever. Now, I mean, Renee's got to forge a key. It's as simple as that. You've got to forge a key. So once again, he's using that card that lets him look at Rachel's hand. Imperial Traitor doesn't get to do anything. Gets an Ember bonus, looks at the hand. I mean, this is great. This gives you knowledge. It gives you information. You can look at it and go, okay, my opponent is probably going to do this next turn, and you can use that to plan out your turns. It's a good card. It's great against Sanctum. But as I mentioned in a previous game, Sanctum and Brobnar were the only 2 houses that were unrepresented, which is really weird. There was a very early tournament right after release that was popped up on the Facebook group, and it was kind of like take 3 decks and use 2 in a best of 3 and all of that. And the overwhelming best house in that tournament was Brobnar. How far we've come. So he's using Bad Penny, but unfortunately there's an armor, so that's not going to do anything, which is a bit sad. Now, we are stealing an Ember and doing some damage with Nerve Blast, and then we are using Restless Whispers. If you're destroying something, which you are, then you get an Ember. That's quite nice. And now he's done what he needed to do. This is a great turn from Renee. He's now sitting there with 9 Ember. He knows Rachel's used her bait and switch. She used it on the previous turn. And Rachel ain't forging next turn. That's good. That's really good. So, we've got Silvertooth down, Reaps, gain an Ember. And once again, we've got this ridiculous battle line here. And yeah, this is a good turn. This is what we needed. This is the only real thing that was going to keep Renee in the game. He had to have a turn like this. A turn like this, so risky when your opponent's got bait and switch. Now, Rachel still has Effervescent Principle. And given that she's only got 1 Ember, I think it's fair to assume that she can probably do it. And she does. She drops the Effervescent Principle, gains a chain. Now, Renee actually still got enough to forge because he took out Grabber Jammer. Now, we see a help from Future Self coming down here, gets an Ember, gets a Time Traveler. It's weird how often on the stream this weekend I've said they need this card, they've just dropped it right away. So Effervescent Principle there was huge. She still needs to take 1 more Ember. Now, unlike the vast majority of Logos decks we've seen this weekend, Rachel's not actually playing Dextra. Now, she is playing Time Traveler, and she does have... No, she doesn't even have a Phase Shift. She's got Wild Wormhole? Now, that's a Fogify, stops your opponent fighting with their creatures next turn, gets you an Ember. But as it stands at the moment, it looks like Renee is going to be forging. There's no Grabber Jammer. He's got 6 Ember. And although Effervescent Principle was great, and it was, Effervescent Principle lost him like 6 Ember. It was, by any definition, a great play. But it's not stopping him forging. Is that such a big problem? Does Rachel care that much? Rachel's got 2 keys. She only really needs to start worrying after Renee's forged key number 2, and he's going to be forging key number 1. So there's a strong argument to just go, forge your key, man. You go ahead. You have fun. Forge that key. But Renee is still far behind. Saving grace, Rachel's not forging a key next turn. Rachel is at least 2 turns away from winning the game. But Renee needs to make this comeback. So we saw this in the previous game. Rachel used things like Time Traveler and lots of reaping to just jump out to an almost unassailable lead. Renee couldn't bring it back, and then it did in fact turn into a very literal, unassailable lead. And Rachel went and won the game. And you've got to think she's a heavy, heavy favourite at this stage. She is really in the driver's seat here. Now, she's on a Logo's turn. Nope, she's just finished. Here goes the bait and switch from Renee. It's not the best use of bait and switch we've ever seen, if I'm honest with you. But we've got 3 Shadows creatures ready to reap here. I believe they're the only 3 he's actually got in play. He needs another Ember from somewhere. I don't think he's going to get it. I'm looking at his hand. I see a couple of Dew Fairies. And no. So again, he's just giving Rachel one more turn. She's popping down a Silvertooth. And you've got to think if she's gone Shadows, there's probably going to be some stealing going on. Relentless Whispers comes down. It can destroy a creature. It could have gone Silvertooth. Obviously, you're going Bat Drone there. Much bigger threat. So there's an Ember from Restless Whispers. That's quite nice. Relentless Whispers, sorry. Very similar. 2 of those in Rachel's deck. And she's up to 5 Ember now, which is nice. She needs 1 more. Now, she can reap with Silvertooth. She can reap with, I believe that's a Nexus. Now, Nexus does let you use one of your opponent's artifacts. Unfortunately, no artifacts down. But remember, it's got a Dusk Runner attached to it. And when you reap, you steal an Ember. So now she's up to 8. So that might be enough. It'd be a pretty low-key way to win the entire tournament. Just playing a couple of cards, reaping a little bit, getting up to 8 Ember and crossing your fingers your opponent doesn't get rid of them. It's not the most... We've seen some dramatic plays. We saw the full moon play that gained like a dozen Ember in round 4 yesterday. We saw the Shadow South being purged with a one last job to steal a single Ember to put themselves in position, and that's it! Rachel's gone and won the Eindhoven Vault Tour. There's nothing Renee can do. Rachel's got 8 Ember there. He cannot stop her forging a key. She's already forged 2. She's already won 1 game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. Renee concedes. And right now, Rachel is our first ever Vault Tour champion. Yeah, we've got one in Seattle. But Seattle's on an 9-hour delay from Eindhoven, and that means that Rachel will always be the first ever Vault Tour champion. Good game, guys, good game. That was fun, that was a good game. And it's a bit of a shame we hadn't been able to see Rachel's deck on stream so far, but it was worth the wait. And here's the thing, right? Everybody's going, well, Time Traveler, is it good? Yes. Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. Double Time Traveler went and won the first Vault Tour. Time Traveler's been a hyped card since it came out. Let's just say the hype for Time Traveler is not going anywhere. So I suppose congratulations to Rachel Trimble for becoming the first ever Vault Tour champion. A very, very good deck. Let's not forget that. I will do an analysis of that in the next few days. But let's also not forget that it doesn't matter how good a deck is, you've got to play pretty gosh darn well to go and win a Vault Tour. And I think it was pretty evident in that past game that Rachel played incredibly well and is an incredibly deserving champion. And the great news for her is she will always be the first ever Vault Tour champion. And no one can ever take that away from her. So congratulations to her, and I'm sorry to say that I don't have any more rounds from the Vault Tour. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I'll do my best to try and make sure I can commentate some more as soon as I possibly can. And if you're ever doing a tournament and you've got some footage, hit me up on Twitter at the Wossy. I'll commentate it if you like. That could be fun. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy for more Keyforge stuff and other games. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching, and if you missed any of the rounds, links in the description. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.